Oh my God, thank you. You guys launched a beautiful Twitter campaign that I was very sorry I couldn't indulge. There was an Emerson Twitter campaign to get us to come and visit, and it made me very happy. So, I was definitely shocked. I mean, when I made the film, we made it in our apartment, as you saw, and we didn't have any sense of what its lifespan would be like, and, you know, I hoped it would be seen at festivals. I hoped maybe there'd be a link so you could download on your computer. Its presence on the Criterion Collection was definitely a shock and unexpected, and, you know, it's not that easy to get your movie on the Criterion Collection. If you're still alive and you're not French, they really ask you to prove yourself. So I went in for a meeting and I talked to them about why I thought my movie should be on the Criterion Collection, which I didn't really, so it was kind of hard to convince them. And then it was a long, kind of incredible process of gathering materials and trying to create the kind of DVD that they're so famous for. And there was an internet kerfuffle about why I should be on the Criterion Collection that caused the Criterion Collection. They didn't quit me, but I didn't hear from them for a couple days. And then, anyway, I'm giving you more than you need to know, except that it was an amazing honor, and I got more free DVDs than you can shake a stick at, and I feel very, very lucky that it gets to have this kind of life. You can pick the next one. Let's share this duty. Okay. Right here. I mean, I think cinematography is... Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for reminding me. Thank you. He gave me a nice compliment about how the movie was shot and about the music on Girls, and then asked about how much of an emphasis I place on cinematography and on the music selection. Tiny Furniture was the first movie where I ever thought about how it was shot. I had made shorts before that. I had made features. My mother's a photographer, so I was obviously aware, at least in some vague way, and kind of by osmosis, of what's important about framing and what's important about lighting, because if you've seen her work, which you have if you've seen this movie, at least a fake version of your work that you made for this movie, then you know that she's sort of very precise in her compositions and in her construction. And so but the movies I'd made before were really loose. They were I was sort of doing this thing that I do here of one long take, but much less consciously. It was more just like a lazy, I don't want to cut the camera and reset this situation. And I started working with this cinematographer, Jody Lee Lipes, who did the first season of Girls as well. And working with him was really my sort of call to arms about the role of cinematography and storytelling and how much you can enhance the emotionality of what you're doing or distance yourself from characters. And I really think that directors have a duty to think about the way that they're using the camera, because it's what makes film the modern medium it is. It's what separates it from theater. It's what gives this particular kind of storytelling its unique and specific power. And so I try to take the camera seriously, and it was interesting. As we were shooting, almost unconsciously, the frames in the movie sort of started to resemble the frames in your work. And in terms of music, I write a lot with music in mind. I think a lot about sort of how it can kind of comment on a moment, but a lot of it is also super emotional for me. Like, it's like what was playing on Z100 when I was 13 is what I'm thinking about when I'm writing. It's really not, I wish I had a more intellectual approach to it, but it's very kind of guttural. And I have an amazing music supervisor on Girls, Manish Raval, and he's constantly calling my attention to music that is hipper and more interesting than I am. Because if it were up to me, you'd probably just be living in a world of Katy Perry. Right there. Yes. Yeah.
Hi. Well, I'm sadly a really big fan of Girls. I noticed you got a little bit of scrutiny for the lack of a proper braces in the show, which you later confronted in the second season. I was just wondering if you could maybe talk about that in relation to your experiences as a 20-something-year-old versus the
she was asking about sort of the kerfuffle, I'll use that light word, that happened around the issue of race in the first season of Girls. And, you know, I have to admit that it came as a surprise to me because I was sort of thinking, I was just thinking about each character, taking her as she came, sort of, you know, as I've said before, sort of, I'm half Jew, half wasp, so I sort of wrote 2 Jews and 2 wasps and went on with it. And it was a real eye-opener for me about the power of storytelling and about the role that we play as content creators in pushing the dialogue about these topics forward. And although it didn't always feel great to sort of be case study number 1 for the lack of diversity on television, I was incredibly glad that the conversation was raised, and if we had to take one for the team in order for a conversation about diversity on television to happen, then I was happy to occupy that role. Because the fact is, my first season wasn't a statement about the New York that I knew. My first season was me writing without being conscious of television's sort of need for a more realistic, diversified world. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry about the first season, because it's really important to me to make what you make and to not